Good morning and welcome to our June 2nd, 2020 regular scheduled Board of Supervisors meeting. We'll call this meeting 9 o'clock. And Supervisor Finley, will you lead us in pledge?
It'll be my pleasure. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
And just as we have done in the past with the COVID situation, we will go ahead and receive our COVID update prior to our public comment. And I would like to know if there's any supervisors on the telephone. Is there any public in attendance on the phone or on Zoom?
There's 17 people on Zoom.
17 on Zoom. Do we know if there's a supervisor on there?
No, I didn't put it behind.
Okay.
There's a phone number that I don't know.
And no one on the phone, regular phone.
Veronica's on the phone. She said yes. It pops up at the board.
Okay. All right, well, we'll go ahead and we'll start this morning with our COVID update. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Liz Hamilton, Interim Director of Health and Human Services and Office of Emergency Services. My portion will be really brief, more or less to introduce the rest of our speakers today. Of course, Marcy Kezel, our Public Health Branch Director, and Connie Cessna-Smith from Behavioral Health is here to do a report out today, so I appreciate her being here for that, and Christy Anderson with Environmental Health. The only update that I have to add on behalf of Office of Emergency Services is that Cal OES informed this week that the Project Room Key, which was to expire at the end of May, they've extended that through June 30th, should we have any need for that program, which to date we have not, but we are prepared and ready for that. So with that, I will turn it over to Marcy.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Supervisors. Thank you for the opportunity to update you. As of today, the testing rate in Trinity County there's 372 total tests done, 361 are negative, 1 positive resolved, and 10 pending. We continue to demonstrate in the Health Department epidemiological stability as required by the attestation. So I'm just going to update you that we are still able to meet those thresholds. We have no more than 1 case per 10,000 people in the last 14 days, and there's been no deaths due to COVID in our county. However, we want to increase our testing capacity. The goal, the set state is 1.5 per 1,000 individuals. That's really the threshold that will give us a really good idea of, in fact, the disease activity. We're currently at 0.8 per day per 1,000, and before I end my presentation, I'll be talking about the high throughput testing that we've brought to the county we're very proud of. We do continue to meet the containment capacity threshold for 1 contact tracer per 10,000 persons. We have 60, so we're pretty good there. Our local triggers for adjusting those modifications continue to be 2 positive COVID cases in Trinity County, and dependent on the results of the contact tracing and the degree of exposure, we will either toggle back the pace of reopening or recommend that, or tighten up existing modifications to control any outbreaks. The state has also implemented their own monitoring process with the following metrics that will trigger engagement of local health jurisdictions by California Department of Public Health. These metrics are elevated disease transmission, so basically a case rate, if you get to a case rate more than 25 per 100,000 over 2 weeks, more than 8 positive tests over 7 to 14 days, also increased hospitalization, 10% or greater 3-day average of positive COVID-19 hospitalized patients, and limited hospital capacity. This means locally, regionally, and state. The percent of ICU bed availability falls below 20%, and the percent of available ventilators falls below 25% as well. CDPH will be posting this metric data for each county this week, we believe, and we will be happy to share that with you when that comes about. This will be, it's my understanding that data will be public facing as well. Moving through stage 3 for attestation counties, as you know, Dr. Herfindahl, we opened up the hair salons with limited, with modifications, and this is based on the guidance that was set out by the state and the governor's office. Sectors with attestation, within attestation counties cannot open until the state guidance for that sector has posted. We know that we've been engaging with the California Department of Public Health, the HHS Secretary, Mr. Galley, and I know that CSAC has probably gotten this information as well. And once a sector guidance is posted, local jurisdictions can make the determination on whether or not to open those sectors based on their unique circumstances. Now I'd like to update you on the mobile testing. Our health department has partnered with California Department of Public Health and the Verily Life Science industry to bring community-based mobile COVID-19 testing to Trinity County. This is a drive-through mobile testing which will be located in specific areas within Trinity County, 2 days each week over 4 weeks, beginning this week on Thursday and Friday. So Thursday, June 4th at between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. at the Trinity County Fairgrounds in Hayfork. And on Friday, June 5th, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Trinity Performance Center. The schedule, we've been coordinating to try to work with Verily on a schedule that works, because that's a unit that's traveling throughout different counties. So our tentative schedule, we looked at having Sawyer be one of those sites. Unfortunately, logistically, we couldn't make that happen. So Willow Creek was identified as the other site that we're going to use. So it'll be Hayfork, Weaverville, and Willow Creek. So next week, Willow Creek will have their drive-through mobile unit on Thursday and back in Weaverville on Friday. And the third week will be Willow Creek on Thursday and Hayfork on Friday. The fourth week will be Willow Creek on Thursday and Weaverville on Friday. This is tentative. We will make sure that this is posted. We did put out a press release yesterday with information for the public on how to register and how to make an appointment. Essentially, this is free. There's no cost to individuals. However, if they are covered under health insurance, their health insurance will be billed. If they don't have health insurance, they won't get billed either way, if they have insurance or not. The eligibility requirements for this drive-through testing is you must be over the age of 18, you must complete the screening form, and you must sign the consent form. All of this information is kept confidential under the law. The appointments for Weaverville on Friday are open now. The appointments for the Hayfork site on Friday will be open today. There was a delay in the Hayfork site in getting that up because we were coordinating where we were going to make it happen. So, and we do have our public health phone line that is set up to, it is now a mobile testing helpline. And we have included that in our press release, and we will be posting that on our website as well. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yes, so what, I'm sure you probably don't have the answer, but on the stage 3 or phase 3, when are we going to see, or has the governor given any indication when we might be able to start working on some of those?
I have not received that information. The only thing we know as of right now is that we cannot move forward until that guidance has been posted for sectors. I know that they're working on schools right now. I don't know when that will be posted.
Well, I would hope that they would work on other things before schools, since schools are a long ways off. But, and then when we talk about the amount of people in the county and 1 per 10,000, is there any taking in consideration the amount of outside people in the area? So for example, last weekend, probably at least 5,000 people came in to my district. Is that counted in the numbers, or is it just base who that's who?
That would be logistically challenging to be able to determine at any point in time in any county who's going in and out and what those numbers are. What we look at is everything is based on population. I'd like to say that's why the census is so important. Here's what I can say. We've been working really closely with county partners, our supervisors, our administration, our OES, our jail, our fire department. Part of surveillance is a two-way street. And so one of the things I told the fire chiefs last night, and I addressed the issue about what information they can get with the help of our county counsel, Margaret Long. So when anyone hears, and the fire department, I'll use this as an example, fire department brought this up, that they heard a rumor that this person might be camping here that's positive. Surveillance is a two-way street. We take intel as part of emergency response. You look at intel. So we take intel from wherever we can get it. So we've encouraged people. It's a balancing act. We don't want to open the floodgates and have everyone contact if they're remotely concerned that someone might be positive. But if you happen to think that someone could be a potential risk, certainly you can let the health department know, and we work with our partners. So it's less about, your point's well taken, Supervisor Gross. It's very difficult to determine based on the number of people in here in our county at any given time and what that does to the data versus people coming in and what that means for surveillance. In public health systems that I've been in before, some of the best intel comes from outside schools for, outbreaks of chickenpox or things like that. So we want to make sure that that's understood, that it's all of us together and getting information that might be useful for the health department. We welcome that.
And thank you for the plug for the census.
Yes.
All right, I'm done, thank you.
Supervisor Trinity? Do you have any questions?
Yes, I'm sorry, just so everyone knows, I'm not quite on Zoom yet. I'm having technical problems, so I don't know if I'm going to come through on the audio side. Will this work now? Okay. So Supervisor Groves kind of touched upon, answered the question, and you did as well in terms of phase 3. So once guidance come out, are we ready to go? They could drop it tomorrow. We just don't know. And like they dropped guidance for religious services on Memorial Day, so it could happen any moment. Are we ready to go when that happens for the phase 3? Do you feel?
So it depends on the sector. Thank you, Supervisor Morris. It depends on the sector. That's really hard for me standing alone up here to answer because it requires our health officer and our team, our sheriff, Tim Saxon. So it's hard to answer that. It depends on what that looks like.
Okay. That's the biggest concern, obviously, is those last remaining sectors before stage 4 to roll out and start to at least reopen in a semi-manner anyway. And I don't know what sector this would fall into, but the Weaverville Chamber certainly is considering their fireworks activity in a very redesigned fashion, where no one's really sitting around like they used to in the school playground area or the field that they used to sit in. So that's something we might need to think about. I haven't received additional details yet. They're still mulling it over. But they certainly are looking at it from the lens of people seeing it wherever their backyard, in their car, not congregating. And it's 7 or 10 minutes of an activity. So just something to put on your radar. I could be sending you an email later today once I get a little bit more information.
So let me just update you on kind of what the process is. What we do is when the guidance comes out from the governor, we convene our team, environmental health, our sheriff, our health officer, our county council, our administrative, our CAO, excuse me, Dr. Kuntz, and our OES, and we look at the plan.
But I'm aware of all that. I just don't know their details yet, and they would be in touch.
So, okay, thank you.
I think that's it.
Thank you, Marcy. Real quick, if you could briefly explain from the public's perspective, when they make the appointment and they're getting the test, what they could expect as far as what's going to happen to them, and specifically if you could elaborate on what this test is saying. Is it saying I've already had it? Is it saying that I'm coming down with it? If you could briefly update that, and I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you, Chairwoman. So this is a drive-through, high throughput testing site. Verily is very adept at this. They have, I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Team Rubicon. They have got volunteers from Team Rubicon to assist, so there's very little that public health staff have to do, although we are assisting them with logistics. Essentially, persons you must set up a Gmail account in order to complete what you need to do and access the testing. And so you'll go on the website. On our website, we put the banner and the Learn More button, and when you click on that, you'll go to the Verily website and it walks you through what to do. We also will be, we have staff available to assist the public in doing that before they present to the site if they need assistance with that. And we will be there on site as well, helping people set up Gmail accounts with our pads. The testing is done while the person's in the vehicle. When they pull up, after they've completed the screening and the consent and all of that, they pull up. They show their ID and their appointment, and the individual from Verily hands them the testing materials, and the person tests themselves. And it's a mid-turbinate, so they don't have to go all the way to the back of their nose, the one that's really uncomfortable. It's just swiping both nostrils, putting it back, and they're walked through that when they go to through the testing site. And then those test results will be, all of those specimens are picked up by Quest. Quest runs those, and they're available within 2 to 3 days. The person that's tested will be notified by email. But there are other ways that we're going to assist them in getting those results. The health department will always be notified if they're positive. There was something else I was going to say, and I just lost it. The testing.
Yes.
It's PCR. It's PCR molecular testing. So that's the one that amplifies the virus RNA. So that tells you the qualitative. They're either positive or they're negative. And if it's positive, it means they're acutely positive. So they may be positive without symptoms. Anyone can be tested, whether you have symptoms or not.
Now, if you're under 18 and you have your parent, are they still prohibited?
No, they're not testing those under 18. Yeah, so we continue to work with our clinic providers and other avenues to get those. Obviously, children are important, and get them tested as well.
Yes, Supervisor.
There also might be a copay involved, just to let people know, I'm assuming.
No, there's no.
Their insurance.
There's no charge to people for COVID testing.
Okay.
There's no out-of-pocket cost.
Quest was charging, what, about $109 if you wanted to do it yourself?
I can send you the information.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
But just so people aren't surprised, just see that there's a $20 copay or something like that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sure.
Good morning, Christy Anderson, Environmental Health. I just wanted to give you a quick update. So far, we have received over 200 business plans in environmental health. We'd still like to see that number up a little bit higher, so we've worked with IT and try to make it a little easier to find on the webpage. we have handed out 2,300 masks to date to local businesses with the help of our health team. And we've worked really hard as a team to help get some of these businesses open or reopened. And we were able, since last board meeting, to reopen dining in, churches at a limited capacity, and hair salons and barbershops. And it was great to talk to all of those businesses, really get their perspective. We've also worked very closely with the school districts, trying to help guide them and help them through graduation ceremonies, as I'm sure a lot of you have received emails from the parents of those districts. And I just wanted to see if there were any questions for me, and we have been responding to complaints as well.
No, I've just heard from various businesses, you've been a big help and really out there trying to get them open quickly as much as you humanly possibly can. And so thank you, and on all those sectors that you worked on the last couple of weeks. And it is my understanding that if a business wants some of those masks, they should contact you. Is that correct? Okay. Supervisor Groves?
Thanks for your work, and thank you for working on that graduation issue. I have some in my district that I think they're dragging their feet in saying, well, they haven't contacted us, so we'll do the COVID-19 thing once somebody talks to us. So have you reached out to businesses that you know, or have you gone down the list, and it's kind of obvious who has and who hasn't?
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Right now it has been complaint-based, but we are hoping to expand our outreach to general businesses, not just complaint-based. So I'm hopeful in the next week or so we'll reach more businesses that have not been, that haven't filed a business plan and received a certificate.
Thank you.
Just thank you.
Keep having fun.
Thank you.
Morning. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Connie Cessna-Smith, Behavioral Health Department. I wanted to give you an update on behavioral health through the COVID emergency. Behavioral health remains open. We have remained open through the whole COVID emergency, and anyone seeking behavioral health services in either Weaverville or Hayfork can contact our office. The contact information is on our website and posted on our doors as well. Make an appointment because we're all still available to the community. Substance abuse services are also still happening, with the exception of group treatment services, which are suspended. Some group services were moved to individual treatment, but the majority of group services and DUI classes have been put on hold. Behavioral health has long offered telepsychiatry as a medium for service delivery for our medication management services to some of our most seriously mentally ill persons. And when in mid-March we got the executive order and COVID was upon us, we moved very quickly to move the rest of our services to telehealth platform. So with the dedicated help of County IT, who I would like to thank very much for their support through this emergency, behavioral health was able to establish 3 telehealth systems in the Weaverville office and 1 in the Hayfork clinic, so that clients who did not have access to the internet or computers could come into a secure area with no contact into the behavioral health clinic and still see their providers. So we are really proud that we were able to keep services going and not have anybody needing to see their doctor or needing to see a therapist and not have access to their provider. So we are still doing that today. We are open, our lobbies are open 8 to 5, and our crisis team is still available for walk-ins as well. We do have many employees working remotely and telecommuting, and it seems to be going very well. And in fact, we got some feedback from the Kingsview Corporation who serves many mental health plans in California counties, that a lot of counties were not able to set up telehealth as quickly as they needed to. So they're doing telephone services entirely in some counties. We did see a spike in April, 81% increase in crisis calls in behavioral health, which speaks to, how people are feeling about the emergency and the stress that it's causing in the community. Fortunately, in May, we saw that go down, and we're now at a 20% increase overall from our baseline in crisis calls. I think that is all I have. Do you have any questions for behavioral health?
No, thank you for the update, though. Appreciate it. Supervisor King?
Okay.
Supervisor Groves?
No, ma'am.
Supervisor Brown on the phone? Thank you. We all appreciate all the hard work you've been doing, and I really thank you for recognizing the IT. I think that you are the second person up to the podium to recognize the Cape Crusaders behind the scenes.
Yes, we couldn't have done it without them.
We are all feeling that right now, so I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, I do have a question from the outside for Marcy. This is from Ms. Alvarez. She wanted to know, what about the pools and why are they not testing people under 18?
Could you repeat that? I couldn't.
I'm sorry. Her question, quote unquote, is what about the pools? Why are they not testing under 18?
Okay. Thank you.
So, thank you, Supervisor Groves. The pools meaning reopening?
I would assume that's what she's
Okay,
asking.
so I'll let Christy answer that. With regarding the testing for under 18, that's really a Verily policy. It's their site, it's their drive-through, and I would imagine it has to do in part with safety issues. And beyond that, I can't really speak to it, but I can certainly find that out, and I'd be happy to share that information. The one thing I forgot to add, I'm so sorry, when I was talking about them doing their own specimen collection, if they're not able to do that, Verily will actually collect those specimens as well. So I didn't want anyone to think that that would preclude them from getting it. I hope that helps.
Before you leave, Supervisor Morris.
Do you know if Optum can do folks under 18?
It is my understanding that they can.
Okay.
Yeah, and we are, again, we're working with our clinics that we're going to need to do testing after the high throughput testing leaves. So we're working with our clinics and healthcare providers and helping us test children as well.
And just thank you, I forgot to mention to you, Marcy, I know you've been working hard on getting testing, the whole team has, here into the county with Senator McGuire and Assemblymember Woods. So thank you for all your efforts to get the mobile testing going.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Morris. I really have to give a shout out to my team, Arena, Amanda, Naomi, Kirsten, everyone that helped. They're really the heroes behind the scenes.
Just to answer the question regarding pools, so late in stage 2, the governor moved pools to stage 3 or phase 3. I was a little surprised by that as well. I know that we have allowed for certain things in the large public pools, the Weaverville and the Hayfork pool, that acts as childcare to be allowed in phase 2, but or stage 2, but the rest of the pools won't be able to open until the next stage or guidance is released by CDPH.
Thank you.
So bringing it on back to the board, now we're going to move into the public comment. This time is for information from the public on matters not appearing on this agenda. All comments are limited to 3 minutes and must pertain to matters within the jurisdiction of this board. When addressing the board, please state your name for the record and address the board as a whole through the chair. No action or discussion will be conducted on matters not listed on the agenda. However, the chair may refer the subject matter to the appropriate department for follow-up or schedule the matter on a subsequent board agenda. Once again, for those on Zoom or calling in, if there's any profanity, you will be muted and you will relinquish any time remaining. And we appreciate the fact that you can't always hear us when we tell you that your 3 minutes is up. So you will be muted after the timer goes off to allow time for the rest of the people in the public. And Tina, I'm going to turn this portion over to you.
No one.
No one for public comment? Is there anybody here in the audience that wishes to speak?
Good morning, Tim Saxon, Sheriff, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm asking for a little latitude. Using the public comment section here, I will not be able to stay for the department head section. I have other pressing matters I must attend to. I apologize for that. Late yesterday, it came to my attention that a member of my department may have posted an inappropriate item on their social media account. I responded to the media in a general way because I've learned that you can't always trust what you see on the internet. Unfortunately, I discovered this post was from one of my deputies. And I want to apologize to the board and to the people of Trinity County for this inappropriate, discriminatory photo that was uploaded to the employee's account. I want to stress that this is not the feeling that is representative of the men and women of the Trinity County Sheriff's Office. We are here to serve and protect all people, no matter what, because everybody matters. I do not condone the actions of this employee, but I do have to accept responsibility for his actions because I am the sheriff. I ask the public to please not judge the rest of the sheriff's employees because of this. I have placed a deputy on administrative leave pending the completion of an internal investigation. And because of the protections afforded by POBR, that's all I'm going to comment on this particular topic. So I thank you, and I just wanted you to understand where we were coming from on that. So thank you very much.
So Sheriff, could you tell us what POBR?
Peace Officer Bill of Rights.
All right, thank you. So,
Thank you for coming in and
Thank you,
addressing the
Sharon.
board. I
You're welcome.
appreciate this. Is there anyone else in the public here that wishes to address the board? Not seeing any, we're going to bring it back to the board, and we're going to enter into our consent calendar. These items include routine, non-controversial matters, and will be acted upon by the board by one roll call motion. A member of the board, staff, or public may request an item be pulled and considered separately. Board, do you have anything? Supervisor Brown? I'll let you get back to Dr. Coons. Staff, is there anyone here? No? Is there anyone from the public that wishes to pull an item? Anyone online? On Zoom? Okay. Bringing it back to the board, I would entertain.
Motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
second.
Supervisor Bruce?
Aye.
Supervisor Finley?
Aye.
Supervisor Morris?
Yes.
Supervisor Brown? Supervisor Gavin?
Yes. So Dr. Jones, if he responds, go ahead and interrupt, and so we can have it for the record. Thank you. So it's a little bit before 10 o'clock, and our public hearing, I want to start right at 10. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to reports and announcements. Reports from any department heads.
Apparently we can hear Supervisor Brown through the Zoom, but we can't hear him in here.
Okay.
Can you check to see if the,
Did he reply?
yeah, he replied, and also Susie says, I can hear him fine through Zoom, but we can't hear him in here.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sure he is. So he responded in the affirmative
Yes.
on the motion, so you will have it unanimous. I just want that for the records. So report from department heads. Are there any department heads here that want to report out? Are there any department heads on? Are there any department heads on the Zoom or on the phone that would want to report out? Nobody's raising their hand or motioning, so we will go on to report from County Administrative Officer.
Yes, the only thing I have to report is, I should have jumped in when we were talking about COVID. We've had 10 businesses that have shown interest in our business loan program, and the guidelines for those will be coming out shortly. The state promised them the guidelines Friday. We haven't received them yet, but we've been on the phone trying to get those. But we've had 10 local businesses that are showing interest, and we're encouraging more to participate.
Yeah, that's good to
Question,
know.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
CAO. Is that really, that survey that's been going around to businesses, is that pretty prominent? I haven't checked recently on the website. I know that's kind of not required, but helpful to Susie gauge demand and requirements, that survey.
I'm sorry, what was the question now? It's just,
The survey link, is that on our homepage? And
I
kind
believe
of
it is. I can
pretty
check.
prominent, so people can just,
I can check. I was under the impression it is, but I can't confirm that until I look.
okay, just when you
But it's not, I'll
resend
make sure.
it. Great.
Yeah. That's all I have to report, I'm
Did
sorry.
Susie want to chime in on anything in response?
You can just
Okay,
check
all
them.
right.
Just wanted to raise the awareness.
Any other questions from the supervisors for Dr. Jones? Report from members of the Board of Supervisors. Supervisor Morris.
Oh, really? That quickly. Let's see, attended the chief's meeting last night, and of course, they're all preparing to be able to stage fires in the COVID environment and social distancing. We are in fire season and virus season. Officially over the weekend, I think all fires were not allowed past Saturday or Sunday, I believe. And then, of course, on public lands, the campfires allowed only in developed campsites, not outside of the developed campsites. What else do we have from them? Of course, they're going around looking, the state is going around the Cal OES, I believe, checking power lines and vegetation around, more importantly, vegetation around power lines and equipment. The Weaverville Fire Department will be receiving a new fire truck from Cal OES, a Type 3 fire truck. So that will be helpful for the county overall. And then I think that is it. Air quality meeting by Zoom, of course. And then I just wanted to put a plug in. These are starting to hit the street. They're being delivered to your home. And you can go online to register your census. I think it takes 5 minutes. There is a code in this package that you would use to go online, or even when you call in, and I believe you can just mail the thing. So that is it, Madam Chair.
Supervisor Finley?
No out-of-county travel.
Thank you. Supervisor Groves?
No out-of-county travel.
Supervisor Brown? Okay, so.
I do not have anything to report on.
Good to hear your voice, sir. Thank you. So
Miss you guys.
on the 27th, we had a COC. We're still at the beginning stages of solidifying our Trinity County COC, and there were nominations to the executive board, and I think I have to wait to make sure they get said who they are, but so that's very exciting moving forward. And then the Fire Safe Council on Thursday, the 28th. So all Zoom, we were behaving. So yes, Supervisor.
I just wanted to point out that these are being left at your door. No one is taking information from people directly. They're just leaving it. So people, if anyone tries to take information from you at your door, it's not quite a census person.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I've seen them hanging on even gates in the Hayfork region. So the census, you still count. You can still count. So that wraps it up, and we have. Do we have time to do
Jump to
the auditor controller?
matters.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that moving forward, because we have several things in closed session that's going to take a while after the county public hearing. So we're going to move on to county matters. If you're following on your agenda, this is item 5.1. These items include non-routine or controversial matters and are listed alphabetically by department. A member of the board or staff may request that an item be pulled out of order. Is there a member of the board that wants to see this rearranged? A member of staff? Okay. We're going to go ahead and take them in alphabetic order. Auditor Controller, 5.1, approve a budget adjustment for Auditor Department 1300, decreasing revenues by $20,784, increasing salaries benefits by $7,305, and increasing services and supplies by $15,500, and approve a budget adjustment for Contingency Department 9901, decreasing provisions for contingencies by $43,589. Increase in budget appropriation of $43,589. Current contingency balance is $502,849. Angie, are you there?
Yes. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Angie Bickle, Auditor Controller. So I tried to be really detailed in my agenda items so that I could explain what was going on. But in summary, the auditor's office is a service department, and normally I exceed revenues that I project at the beginning of the budget year. However, this year I came in short $20,000 rounded. In addition, we incurred additional expenses associated with our go live date of July 6, 2020 on our new One Solution accounting software, in which we switched from being in-house for our environment to the cloud environment. And with that, it came with an agreement that they will do all the stuff that they're currently providing to us that we're paying for them anyways, because our IT staff does not have the ability to do that. So with that said, and plus we have a salary schedule and a class and comp that I didn't budget for pursuant to what I was directed to. So what this budget adjustment is doing is requesting to cover a decrease in revenues and an increase in expenditures, because as of right now, based on making the payment to Central Square, I do not have sufficient budget appropriation to pay for any of my vendor checks, payroll checks, etc. Any questions for me?
Supervisors, do you have any questions? Supervisor Brown, do you have any questions?
No, I do not.
Okay, thank you. Open up to the public. Are there any questions from the public? Having no one raising their hand or contacting us, I'll bring it back to the board and entertain a motion.
I'll move to accept 5.1 as presented.
Second. Finley.
Supervisor Finley?
Aye.
Supervisor Grove?
Aye.
Supervisor Morris?
Yes.
Supervisor Brown?
not unmuting.
Jeremy, can you unmute and vote? Supervisor
Sorry
Brown?
about that. Aye.
Thank you.
Supervisor Challenge?
Aye. Item 5.2, approve a budget adjustment for Courts General Department 1500, increasing services and supplies by $18,000, and approve a budget adjustment for Contingency Department 9901, decreasing appropriations by $18,000. Increase in general fund appropriation $18,000. Currently, contingency balance is $459,260. Angie?
Good morning again, Board.
Thank you.
Bickle, Auditor Controller. This budget adjustment is again asking for contingency funds to cover the costs associated with paying the courts for their service provided to the county for service of processing. In past years, their average cost was around $40,000. However, it is bumped up, and I'm anticipating it's going to be around $62,000. I will be addressing this with Budget Committee again this year. We've discussed in the past of looking elsewhere, maybe.
Andy, you're cutting out. You cut out for a moment there, that last sentence.
So I'm going to be approaching the Budget Committee in regards to maybe looking at another option for the service of process, because the court's costs continue to have skyrocketed from $40,000 to approximately $60,000 for this year. So I'd like to see if there's something else that's available at a better price.
Thank you, Angie. Board, do you have any questions? Supervisor Brown, do you have any questions? Do we have any questions from the general public? Go ahead, Jeremy.
You said no.
No, okay. Anybody in the public? Do you see anybody? Bringing it back to the board?
Motion to approve as presented.
Second. Feeling generous, yeah.
Very gracious of you,
Supervisor Groves?
Aye.
Supervisor Finley?
Aye.
Supervisor Morris?
Yes.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Supervisor Challenge?
Aye. I think we still have time to do this county administrative office. Approve a budget adjustment for Natural Resources Department 2700, increasing transfers in by $461 and increasing indirect costs by $461. Approve a budget adjustment for Contingency Department 9901, decreasing appropriations by $461, and approve a budget adjustment for contributions to other funds Department 1990, increasing transfers out by $461. Increase the general fund appropriations $461 and decrease in contingency appropriations of $461. Current contingency balance is $441,260. Dr. Kins?
Yes, I also have Susie on the line if you have any questions, but it's staying in theme with what we've been doing the last two budget items. It's during our budget time, we do our best to project what our expenses are going to be in. And this one, we projected $461 less than we anticipated. So we're just asking for the general fund contribution to meet our expenses.
Board have any questions? Jeremy? Supervisor Brown?
No, I do not.
The public? Any questions? Bringing it back to the board.
So moved.
Second.
Supervisor Groves?
Aye.
Supervisor Morris?
Yes.
Supervisor Finley?
Aye.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Supervisor Challenge?
Aye. Item 5.4, with the train. Approve a budget adjustment for Administration Department 1200, decreasing revenues by $55,165, increasing salaries and benefits by $8,640, and decreasing services and supplies by $2,500. Approve a budget adjustment for County Council Department 1600, increasing revenues by $797. Approve a budget adjustment for Information Technology Department 1940, increasing revenues by $51,591, increasing salaries and benefits by $5,863, and increasing services and supplies by $8,665, and approve a budget adjustment for contingency Department 9901, decreasing appropriations by $23,445, increasing in general fund appropriations of $23,445. Current contingency balance is $440,799. $440,799.
And again, on this one, we're asking for the $23,445 from general fund to offset the decrease we had in revenues that haven't come in as high as we anticipated, and the other increases in the department costs are partially from the class and comp, so we're just offsetting until we can get a zero balance on these.
Questions from the board? Supervisor Brown?
None.
Any questions from the public? Comments? Seeing none, move it back to the board.
So moved.
Second.
Supervisor Finley?
Yes.
Supervisor Morris?
Yes.
Supervisor Groves?
Aye.
Supervisor Brown?
Aye.
Supervisor Challenge?
Aye. We're going to take a 9-minute break. It's 9:51. We will come back to the board at 10 o'clock sharp for county matters. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I'm going to leave the streaming running while you're on break, just so people don't have to log back in.
So supervisors, Dr. Kivens, we will be live during the break.
So,
Thank you. Thank you.
Is that from John, Building Association? He caught me in the parking lot.
He's here.
Yeah, and he probably got more too.
Oh, cool. Thank you for doing this.
no, sir.
You can thank him.
Will do.
I'm just the messenger.
Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
It's the guy in the corner.
Oh. Thank you.
Oh, you got it.
Appreciate that.
I've got more in the car.
Very good to have.
Yeah, in fact, I'm gonna leave a stack one with each of you guys.
All right.
It was so hard to find there for a while.
Oh my gosh.
We had to have
He's
time to get the containers and the alcohol. We ended up having a member that had piles of alcohol stored up. Otherwise it would have been almost impossible to get that.
All right. Yeah, I thought I was going to come to that. I have alcohol and I'm trying to think of the other ingredient that I was going to use in that. Vegetable glycerin.
Oh,
I smelled all
yeah.
vegetable glycerin. If it came down to it, I was going to mix that up, and I've been able to keep by with little bottles that people have been able to provide me with. Which is nice, because I end up working on a lot of different people's computers and stuff, so.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sanitized after that, and before.
Yeah, for sure. You know, we've been spared the worst of this thing.
Yeah.
You know, I think Newsom got it right at exactly the right moment. Otherwise, California would look like the East Coast or worse.
Yeah.
Now that it's been lifted, you know, now that everyone's mostly ignoring the guidelines, I think it's more important to do things like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
When they're talking out there, I can still hear them, so.
I'll close the door. the voices of Karen and Lisa.
Oh, yeah, oh, please, why would you even ask? But thank you for asking. Oh.
Do you want some?
No, they're at home. I have pictures of Judy and her four.
I was gonna ask you.
Her four supervisors now. Jose's named them.
Uh-oh.
That's funny.
Yeah, they're getting big.
I found something on chickens that I was gonna send to you. They're pretty smart.
Well, yeah. Judy's in charge though. And she's got the evil eye that I've never seen. One of the pictures.
That is funny.
Judy,
Yeah.
I want to show you on the website.
Uh-huh. Oh.
The business loan link is right here.
Oh, okay, great.
Which is pretty prominent. It's on a mobile device, the stacking order. This first sidebar actually shows up first. So it's pretty prominent. It might be nice if it had a graphic like the other thing does. But that's where it is.
Okay.
Yeah, that stacking is pretty irritating.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
I didn't what it is. Tell me to get over
I
it.
just want to put more on there, but it is getting pretty.
Yeah, just tell me to get over it.
So, I'm having problems getting onto Zoom. I don't think it's affecting anything.
You know,
Through my computer.
yeah, and we can just watch your chin the entire time.
You can't see me except there, right?
That's what.
Well, yeah, but all we see is a chin. First time I tried it, it was like, no, not gonna happen.
Exactly.
My nose.
I just do audio when I am on. Okay, so I am, okay.
I don't have anything. I'm gonna go around them.
Just make sure you speak in the mic.
Some 2 minutes.
There was some complaints about audio
Are you
last time, and I didn't know
Ready?
if I needed to be on Zoom to.
Yeah, the issue this time when we couldn't hear Jeremy, that was actually my fault. So earlier on, somebody was unmuted and making some noise, and so I turned around.
What about 60 seconds?
And then at that point, it doesn't matter if the volume being turned down on my laptop, so I should not do that. You probably, on yours, you have the ability to do other people.
Our cloth does not match. I went by that one, so I'll go by that one. The battery.
I'm recording the meeting. She's managing.
Yeah,
He's, between the two of them, they're managing.
Okay, yeah, I have 10 alternates now. So supervisors, we're going to bring it back into open session. This is county matters. These items include public hearing, excuse me. Supervisor Brown, are you there?
He is.
Okay.
He's going to recuse from the presentation.
Okay.
Recuse himself on the appeal.
So we're going to conduct a public hearing to uphold, modify, or overturn the Planning Commission's action to uphold the Planning Director's decision to deny a variance to the American Cannabis Partners request for Type 3 commercial cannabis cultivation license on Assessor Parcel Number 016-220-02-00 in the Hayfork area, planning file P-20-11, unknown fiscal impact. And Kim, before you start, County Counsel Margaret Long, are you on the line? Are you here with us?
I am. Good morning.
Good morning, Margaret. And do we have anyone on the Zoom or on the phone? Could you please identify yourself for the American Cannabis Partners?
Good morning, Madam Chairman. This is Jacob Frankel from the law firm Dickinson Wright on behalf of American Cannabis Partners. And further to our emails, I appreciate your permission to enable me to speak, assuming it is necessary for me to do so, before the Board of Supervisors today.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anybody else on the line? On behalf?
Madam Chair, can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can.
Supervisor Brown.
Yes, I can.
I'm going to be recusing myself on this issue due to the low radius of mileage from my cannabis business to the proposed project's location. With the mines rezone, I was deemed allowed to partake because it was outside of a 50-mile radius. But with this issue, with the mileage being closer, I want to be sure to be in my legal bounds, so I will be recusing.
Okay. Thank you for advising the board, Supervisor Brown. Is there anyone else on the phone for American Cannabis Partners? Okay, I hear silence. So before we get started, I'm going to explain a little bit about what we're doing here right now. This is a public hearing, and it is to determine if the board will uphold or modify or overturn the Planning Commission's action to uphold the Planning Director's decision to deny a variance to the American Cannabis Partners request for the Type 3 commercial cannabis cultivation licenses on Assessor Parcel Number 016-220-02-00. The board will listen to the information of the applicant, to the comments of the public prior to rendering our decision. The decision of the board will be in writing, so it will not be issued at this meeting, but will come back at the next meeting. The board is not allowed to hear information on anything other than whether the director properly denied the variance based on the language in the current code. This is not the opportunity to modify or invalidate county code, and the board will not consider testimony on that issue. The procedure for the public hearing. We will hear a report. The board will hear a report by a staff member. There will be questions of the staff member from the board. The opening of the public hearing, the presentation of the position by project and policy proponent or applicant. No time limit. APN will be, or ACP will be able to have as much time as they would like. Questions of the proponent, applicant from the board. Statements in support and opposition, 3 minutes. Rebuttals and closing statements. If you would like to allow, if we want to, we can have them have a final statement. The board will have a discussion and then the decision by the board, and then direction will be given to staff to write up the formal decision. Rules of the County of Trinity and the findings shall be adopted by this board as part of the decision whenever required by a quasi-evidential hearings. So this is according to our county codes. And so I wanted to state that so we all know and have an idea of the framework in which this public hearing will proceed. Are there any questions? Yes, Supervisor.
Was that included in our backup, your statement,
The backup for,
for
no,
this item?
it is not in the
Okay,
statement.
can you go ahead and have administration or county council send us all a copy of that?
Margaret, did you hear that? Could you please send the supervisors a copy of my statement of how we are to proceed?
Of instructions.
Of
Thank you.
instructions.
Absolutely, happy to do so. And the information in your statement comes out of our governance manual, so it's all referenced therein, but I'm happy to email that out to everyone so we have a understanding how we proceed forward.
And just so you know, John, I reached out to and I asked very specific, so we would be in an orderly fashion and following the letter.
Right.
Okay,
I understand that. That's why I wanted to have it in front of me.
thank you. I appreciate that, and we will make it in the record for the public document as well. So, Director Hunter.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, I'm Kim Hunter, I'm the Building and Planning Director. I'll be giving the staff presentation this morning. The item before you today, as it has been read, is a request of an appeal of the Planning Director's decision to reject an application requesting variance from the requirements established by Trinity County Code Section 17.43.040, which is Type 3 Commercial Cannabis Cultivation Licenses. The applicant is requesting 3 medium Type 3, 1 acre commercial cannabis licenses on a 23.86 acre parcel and a reduction of the required 500-foot property line setback for cultivation. The proposed site for the cultivation license is 241 Drinkwater Gulch Road in the Hayfork area. Again, the approximate acreage of the site is 23.86 acres. The zoning district is agricultural 10-acre minimum with a critical water resources overlay and flood hazard overlay. The general plan designation is agriculture. The staff recommendation is to deny the appeal. First, I would like to go into a little background on the purpose of variances. Variances in general may be granted for a variation or modification of a strict application of the regulations of a zoning ordinance. Variances may be granted in cases where there are practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships. In a way of strict application of the zoning ordinance would be problematic. Variances cannot be granted for relief on land use limitations. Specifically, variance applications provide relief from standards related to development standards such as building height or property setbacks for structures. The decision to approve a variance must be based on guidelines established by the zoning code, section 17.31.010, and government code, California Government Code section 65906. The Trinity County zoning ordinance describes variances as a waiver or modification of some requirements contained in the zoning ordinance. The statutory justification for a variance is that an owner would otherwise suffer a unique hardship under general zoning regulations because his or her particular parcel is different from others to which the regulation applies due to size, shape, or topography. Variances may be granted only to authorize a change in development standards, which is not otherwise authorized by zoning regulations. In considering a variance, the following guidelines shall be observed. A. No special privilege. A variance cannot be a special privilege extended to one individual property owner. The circumstances must be such that the same variance would be appropriate for any property owner facing similar circumstances. B. Use variance prohibited. The consideration of use variances is specifically prohibited. These are variances which request approval to locate a use in a zone from which it is prohibited by ordinance. C. Disservice not permitted. A variance must not be injurious
to public welfare nor adjacent property owners. D, not adverse to general or specific plan. A variance must be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance and cannot adversely affect the general plan or specific plans of the county. And E, which does not actually apply in this case with this request, is for the RD1 overlay zone, which would require prior approval from the Secretary of Agriculture, so it does not apply in this case. Regarding state government code, there's not much written in the government code about variances, but what is contained in the code is very straightforward, and I'll just read that very quickly from the state perspective. Variances from items from the terms of the zoning ordinances shall be granted only when, because of special circumstances applicable to the property, including size, shape, topography, location of surroundings, and the strict application of zoning ordinance deprives such property of privileges enjoyed by other property in the vicinity and under identical zoning classification. Any variance granted shall be subject to conditions as will assure the adjustment thereby authorized shall not constitute a grant of special privilege inconsistent with the limitations upon other properties in the vicinity and zone in which the property is situated. Variance shall not be granted for a parcel of property which authorizes a use or activity which is otherwise expressly unauthorized by the zone regulation governing of the parcel of property. The provisions of this section do not apply to conditional use permits. So there is a little background on variances. Skipping to the type 3 cultivation licenses, this is under our 17.43 commercial cannabis cultivation. I'd like to give a little more background and refresher in some cases on this portion of the code. And I'm starting with item A1 in that section, and that is that priority will be issued based on the number issued to Trinity County commercial cannabis license numbers for type 3 cultivation. Going down to section B, the county will allow 15 type 3 licenses. These licenses shall be available to those who have already obtained a commercial cultivation license. To be eligible, the applicant must be applying for a property that is 50 acres or more and apply for and obtain a conditional use permit. Priority will be given to those that hold a valid 2016-2017 county license and who submit completed applications by a date determined by the director. Thereafter, priority will be given based on Trinity County commercial license numbers. And I did skip around a little. I did eliminate some sections of the code that I do not believe apply in this case. I just want to say that for the record. Those are excerpts from the code section. On April 23rd, 2020, the Planning Commission reviewed this appeal and considered the request of the appellant to overturn the director's decision. The Planning Commission upheld the director's decision and denied the appeal. The Planning Commission concurred with the planning director's decision, and I'm going to reference the letter that was sent to American Cannabis Partners, ACP, on February 27th, 2020. Upon the submittal of variance request for 3 type 3 commercial cannabis licenses on a 23.86 acre property, as the planning director, I did respond and felt that this variance request was inappropriate, that it did not meet the criteria of a variance, and that basically the request was to disregard the adopted code section. That is with the exception of a setback, cultivation setback variance for the required 500-foot setback. That is the one component that obviously would be a legitimate variance request under our code section. The concern that I do have and expressed in that letter is that variances, again, as outlined in the state and county code, shall be granted only when there's a special circumstances applicable to a property and the strict application of zoning ordinance would deprive such property of a privilege enjoyed by other similar properties. I do not believe this is the case with the ACP request. Again, variances also may be granted only to authorize a change in the development standards, which is not otherwise authorized in the zoning regulations. The variance request goes far beyond the request of just a cultivation setback, but is a request to waive the criteria of the code, such as the 50-acre minimum and the prioritization of commercial cannabis licenses that has been established. Those are not development standards. Those are essential criteria approved in the code and the ordinance. So the fact that the 23.86 acre parcel is less than half the required 50-acre parcel size. ACP does not hold a valid 1617 Trinity County CCL. They are license holders, just not 1617 license holders. The 15 Type 3 licenses have been spoken for. We do have a deadline coming up for those 1617 license holders in priority in number as outlined by the code. They have submitted letters of intent, and all 15 licenses are currently spoken for by those license holders as appropriate. And again, the variance request is to allow 3 Type 3 1-acre cultivation sites on the 23.86 acre parcel, not just one. There's a request for 3. So, in conclusion, with the exception of the 500-foot cultivation setback component, the proposed variance would grant special privilege extended to one property owner and request several exceptions to zoning regulations regulating Type 3 commercial cannabis license eligibility and process rather than development standards. As a result, I rejected the variance application on the grounds that these requests are not appropriate for a variance application, again, with the exception of the 500-foot cultivation setback. One other item I would like to just add is that the variance request was a standalone variance request. There was no conditional use permit application or commercial cannabis licenses applied for. So I view this as kind of a hypothetical variance. I'm not experienced with variances coming in without a project attached to that. For instance, when let's use the example of a garage. Somebody would like to build a garage. They have a very long, narrow lot with some topography that restricts some slope, possibly, some boulders. They just simply have to move the garage to another side of the property because it's a unique situation on this long, narrow property that this garage needs to go a little bit closer to the other property line. And that's the only place where it can be built. This is a given use. It's a privilege granted to other parcels of that size and zoning, and it's a request that's unique to that parcel. So therefore, okay, instead of the 30-foot setback or the 10-foot setback, we're going to let you go to maybe 5 or 15 feet because you have a very unique situation. That's not going to be replicated very often on any other parcels, if ever, mattering on the situation. That's unique. It's not a special privilege. It's a development standard. So in conclusion, that is why I chose to reject the application and denied the application. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Supervisors, any questions for Director Hunt at this time? No, we'll wait. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and have you take a seat, and we're going to receive a presentation by the, Jacob, are you there? I'm not really sure.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so this time is for you now, and like oh, there you are. Hi. Like I had mentioned, there's no time restraint. You're not limited to 3 or 5 minutes. This is your time.
No, I appreciate that. And as Mr. Jordan is going to be making the remarks on behalf of ACP, I guess one question I have for you procedurally, and Madam Chairman, you're aware of the communications between Ms. Long as County Council and me, or really, I said my partner, who is a California litigator in our Sunnyvale office, regarding the quasi-judicial nature of the proceeding. There seems to be some inconsistency, and maybe you, Madam Chairman, can clarify for me, because our appreciation of a quasi-judicial proceeding, which is how Ms. Long characterized this proceeding in her admonition, which we also disagreed with about an ex parte communication to the board. And again, my partner Jonathan Baker responded in writing. We believe that response is before the board. But the question is, to you, Madam Chairman, from a perspective of due process and being able to advance the rights of ACP, before you as the Board of Supervisors, do I have the opportunity to pose questions to Ms. Hunter? And if I do I have the right to do so just as I would with any other witness on a witness stand in a proceeding? Because again, our appreciation of the nature of this proceeding is it is quasi-judicial in nature and therefore should be able to do so. And that's why I'm asking.
And I'll jump in there, and yes, my understanding that was part of the process we've set forward. If you have any questions for any of the witnesses that the county called, which in this case is Ms. Hunter, if you have any questions for her, feel free to ask those questions and she will answer them.
Madam Chairman, may I ask those questions after Mr. Jordan's presentation, because that could be a rather extensive questioning.
I'm allowing you the time you need for this proceeding, and I am in receipt of those communications. However, I am not qualified to speak to law, and so Margaret, County Counsel Long, will be addressing any questions of the law. I am not qualified, so the Board of Supervisors is relying on her expertise to help facilitate this proceeding. So you will be allotted the time necessary, and if you feel that at the conclusion of the hearing that you need more time, I have expressed and been told by our county council that this will be done with those accommodations for you, having more time allotted if we cannot get through this. It is my hope that we can get through this today and have a timely conclusion. Thank you, sir. I hope I answered your question.
You have. May I propose the following, and that is what may be most prudent, because it would normally be my intent if this were a judicial proceeding to ask questions of Ms. Hunter that go back to and begin with not only the meeting that she had with Mr. Jordan, which will be something that Mr. Jordan will address in his comments, but it would basically be an exhaustive, what I call examination of everything that she considered, everyone with whom she spoke, those from whom she sought advice, which would then inform us as to other witnesses whom I otherwise would be able to call and examine in a proceeding no different than I would in a court of law. So it may be prudent and more deferential to, to the Board of Supervisors for Mr. Jordan to be heard, for the board to consider comments from the public, and then maybe Ms. Long and me to have an offline discussion regarding the nature and scope of that, of the questioning that I might otherwise undertake, or to see if there was some other way. Because, for example, I did make or I should say my partner made a specific request to Ms. Long as county counsel for documents that would adequately inform us as to information that would be central to my ability to effectively pose questions, and I will use the phrase cross-examine because that's the world in which I live, cross-examine Ms. Hunter. Last night, not as a direct response to my partner's email to Ms. Long last week, but last night I was informed that the proper forum for making the request for those documents would be through a Freedom of Information Act request. So, I want to say we're somewhat disadvantaged, but we trial lawyers are often, put at a disadvantage in a proceeding, and I'm prepared to deal with that. But I would certainly like to be able to make a request and access those documents to further enable me to have a comprehensive examination before this board of Ms. Hunter.
And I will rely on County Counsel Margaret Long to respond to that.
Thank you. This is the time and the place for the hearing, and I don't have the authority as county counsel representing the Board of Supervisors to accommodate any requests. You have to make that directly. It sounds as if you're making a request to hold this hearing in two parts. I wouldn't recommend that. I recommend let's do it as one hearing. If you were making a request for continuance, that would be a request you would make to the Board of Supervisors, not directly to me.
Madam Chairman, to be fair, I'm not making a request. We made a request to Ms. Long. In substance, Ms. Long kind of have it both ways. We made a specific request to Ms. Long approximately a week ago, not a little bit longer, requesting documents that are relevant to this hearing. We're not asking for a continuance. We're asking for due process and the opportunity to be fully heard. Now, it appears as if Ms. Long also was advising the Planning Commission, may well have advised Ms. Hunter in this process. So it could very well be that in the course of my questioning of Ms. Hunter, it may turn out Ms. Long may become someone who we may wish to examine. And I certainly am mindful of what constitutes privileged attorney-client communications and what does not, and also what is the appropriate scope of questioning that would enable the person presiding over a proceeding to make a determination as to whether there is or is not a proper assertion of attorney-client privilege. So again, that's what I'm suggesting to you, Madam Chairman, that the questioning of Ms. Hunter and questions that I ask could actually directly impact Ms. Long's ability to counsel the board on this matter, particularly given that she acted as counsel to the Planning Commission in connection with that hearing. And as Mr. Jordan will indicate in his comments, also had a direct effect on what could be heard and when that information could be heard before the Planning Commission. So I am not asking for a continuance, I'm just asking that the board chair consider globally the big picture here. And that's why I'm suggesting that Mr. Jordan make his comments now, and then I would defer to the board chair, no different than I would to the presiding judge in a proceeding, to determine how best to advance and proceed in this matter. I'm certainly not asking Ms. Long, to put herself in your role, Madam Chairman.
Okay, so
Why don't you proceed forward and then we can go from there.
that's what I was going to suggest, and I Supervisor Morris says.
I do have a quick question. So going back to what our Chairwoman Chadwick said earlier in opening this hearing, Margaret, if I heard correctly, isn't the question of the day whether the variance was properly denied? I mean, isn't that the simple question? Or am I wrong? Or did I hear Chair Chadwick wrong?
You are correct. The issue is whether the application of established standard to individual facts to determine the specific rights or to take a specific action on existing law. So what that essentially means is you're determining whether Ms. Hunter applied the law correctly given the facts of this case. That's the sole issue before the board.
Thank you.
So with that, we will, go ahead.
And Madam Chair, if I may respond, that is exactly the point, and that is that to be able to understand how she applied the law, I mean, you heard Ms. Hunter speak to her presentation to you, was talking about the variances, what variances apply, the county code. You know, Mr. Jordan is not here to challenge the integrity of the code, but it is certainly fair game, even based on Ms. Hunter's presentation, to be able to put before the board all of the issues that factored into Ms. Hunter's decision, including if those underlying premises that form the basis of her decision are subject to being questioned or have an element of constitutionality that warrants visiting. That is fair information to put forth the record. If the board chooses not to consider that information, that's entirely within the board's discretion. All we're asking for is Mr. Jordan be allowed to address these issues before the board. We would do so as well. And what we want to ensure is that there is a comprehensive record so that should this matter become the subject of a follow-on judicial challenge, that there is a comprehensive record and we're not deprived of the opportunity before a court ultimately, should that be necessary, to say that, well, we did not raise the issue below and therefore it's not subject to consideration. We have, meaning ACP has the right to be heard on all the issues that it deems relevant, that it believes were components of Ms. Hunter's decision, such that they could be, if it were to be necessary to do so, the subject of a subsequent constitutionality and process challenge.
Okay, and with that, I thank you for your comments. And with that, I think we're going to proceed and start with Mr. Jordan's presentation, and we will consider your request as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I wanted to ask if I could hand each member of the board a copy of my prepared remarks, which I'm actually going to be giving from the podium today.
If you can hand it to Ms. Tina, and
Yes,
she will hand it out.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Do you have that in electronic form?
Thank you.
I will defer that to Jacob to respond.
I would request that if he does, that it is sent to County Council, as she is not present to receive it.
I'm sorry, to what address? I can forward it right away because I received it from Mr. Jordan as well this morning. To what email address should I send it?
To, you should have Margaret Long's County Council email address.
Margaret at PrenticeLongPC.com.
Oh, okay, to Margaret, I will forward it to her promptly.
Thank you.
Yeah, and again, so that Madam Chairman, what Mr. Jordan has given, by virtue of some of the technical challenges that existed at the Planning Commission. I mean, these are his verbatim remarks, so that the board is able to follow them verbatim with Mr. Jordan. But I will forward them as well to Ms. Lowe.
Can you please also send it to Jay Brown at trinitycounty.org? He's the supervisor that is not present. Oh, wait, never mind. He's recused himself.
Okay.
Don't be scrapped that. always on my mind. Okay.
Yeah, good.
Should I, forgive me, I'm set, I have Ms. Long's, Prentice Long email address. Did you wish that I CC it to any other email address?
Not at this time. No.
Okay.
Good morning, Madam Chairman and members of the Board of Supervisors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this morning on behalf of American Cannabis Partners. I stand before you asking that the Board of Supervisors grant ACP's appeal and award the expansion in cultivation that we have requested. Before addressing the background and the merits for this appeal, I want to let you know what documents are before you. The first document is my prepared remarks, which I am now making on the public record. My remarks are written and before you to ensure that there is no misunderstanding as to the substance and message. The second document is the appeal itself, that the ACP's appeal from a decision by the Planning Commission, which was seriously flawed proceeding in all respects. I will comment on those later. The third document is my email to all of you, the members of the Board of Supervisors, inviting you to view ACP's property. The sole purpose of that invitation was so that this proceeding would not be a mere paper concept. We wanted you to view the property and the project, as we were confident that the viewing of the property and being able to visualize the project would be compelling and persuasive evidence to support this appeal. The fourth document is the letter from the county attorney suggesting that I should not have extended you the invitation, which was entirely administrative and procedural in nature, and that this appeal is a quasi-judicial proceeding. The fifth document is a letter from ACP's lawyers to the county attorney explaining why her letter was incorrect regarding my extending to you the invitation to view the property and project. This document also makes a very specific request to the county attorney to provide documentation and ensure the appearance today of witnesses for ACP's lawyers to question based on the county attorney's description of today's appeal as a quasi-judicial proceeding. The county attorney has done neither. That is, provide the requested documents or produce those witnesses. The county attorney's failure to do that, in our opinion, is both an ethical and legal error, both of which will be pursued in their proper forums after today's appeal. A county attorney simply cannot assert the law and fail to fulfill her obligations in connection with the same law that she asserts. The sixth document is the letter from ACP's counsel to the board chair requesting permission for ACP's counsel based in Washington, D.C. to appear formally today before the board on behalf of ACP. The seventh document is the email reply from board chair giving her permission for ACP's national counsel to address the board, should it be necessary for him to do so. The eighth document is the written submission that ACP prepared for the Planning Commission and delivered in advance of the appeal to the Planning Commission for the commissioners, excuse me, in clear dereliction of their duties. The staff never provided the written submission in advance to the commissioners. All one needs to do is watch the tape of the proceeding and it is clear. Separate and apart from the fact that the two commissioners who were on the telephone could not hear well during the proceeding, the commissioners were reading the submission while I was addressing them. It was inexplicable how the commissioners could listen to my arguments and read the submission at the same time, and then rush to vote. Such defects, among many, in the proceeding at the Planning Commission are why we are here to appeal today before you. The ninth document is the email exchange yesterday, June 1st, between ACP's counsel, Mr. Frankel, whom you have met in January, and Ms. Long about today's appeal, and the fact that ACP has not received the information that we requested last week in preparation for today's hearings. You will also note, so that it's clear on this oral record of this meeting, that Mr. Frankel's email to Ms. Long preserves these issues for any appeal from this proceeding, should any appeal to the circuit court be necessary. I want to add that it is my hope, and ACP's hope, that all matters related to this appeal are resolved fully today. As I begin to address the substance of my remarks, I trust that we can all agree, without the need for a vote by the board, that the citizens of Trinity County, both corporate and individual, are entitled to full and fair due process in California's county proceedings and access to public information. That should be especially true when a citizen is undertaking a project without question for that citizen's benefit but also to benefit the citizen of Trinity counties through positive tax and business considerations. That was ACP's expectation in dealing with the planning department, and regrettably, and the regrettable but necessary appeal to the planning commission. Unfortunately, what happened in leading up to this appeal was an abandonment of candor, disregard for state law, and denial of full and fair due process. We are before you because of these actionable errors by the planning department and the planning commission. To put today's appeal in a proper context, I need to begin by sharing with you key points of an interaction between American Cannabis Partners and Trinity County officials since we formally introduced ourselves to you, this board, on January 22nd, 2020, in a presentation during which we asked for nothing except our hope that the county welcome us with the same level of warmth as our decision to make Trinity County our home and national headquarters. On January 22nd, 2020, we made a short presentation to you, and through you to the citizens of Trinity County, to tell you about ACP as a cannabis cultivator. What we highlighted for you is everything that distinguishes us from many non-compliant cultivators and operators with whom you may be more familiar with historically. We illustrated how we are a legal cultivator, and I stress the word legal, that has been striving to impact positively the economy here in Trinity. We gave our history of financial community involvement and our pledge to hire local, to be cognizant of neighbors, to work cooperatively with the planning department, to follow compliance protocols, and to endorse future reasonable cannabis taxes to help fill the county's coffers. We expressed how we would like for our taxable revenues to support first responders, disaster relief, community projects, and protection for Trinity County infrastructure. On February 7th, 2020, I visited the planning department and met with Director Kim Hunter to explore opportunities for ACP to apply for additional licenses to expand our canopy space. When I scheduled a meeting with Ms. Hunter, I explained to her that the purpose of my meeting with her was ACP's interest in pursuing additional licenses. During the meeting in Ms. Hunter's office, I presented to her a formal project description written by ACP's professional consultant group. That project description is in your staff report, which is in your materials. ACP's project is based on the following 9 factors. APN 016220-02. Property size, 23.86 acres. Zoning, Ag 10. CEQA exempt, Article 19, Class 1, Section 15301, existing facilities. CDFW compliant. Structures on property permitted through building department. Operating 3 acres of cultivation will require 0 alterations to the property regarding zoning, terrain, topography, utilities, irrigation, water storage, drainage, septic, waste, or disposal. The property was previously used as an orchard, and all equipment, electric and irrigation, already existed and have passed all inspection requirements for cannabis cultivation. The 137,506 square feet, exactly 3.15 acres, already is surrounded by an 8-foot fence with barbed wire on top and require no work to establish cultivation perimeters. The closest property is 350 feet to designated area, which we will apply for the 350-foot variance request. I explained to Ms. Hunter the precise nature of ACP's licensing objective. Ms. Hunter told me that the license was not possible because there were no more Type 3 licenses available, and for that reason she did not give me the license application. Ms. Hunter then instructed me to fill out the document that is in the record of this appeal for a variance to 3 acres worth of cultivation. There was no special privilege request. There was no theoretical variance request. Director Hunter made it unequivocally clear that I could not apply for even one Type 3 license and that none were available. Ms. Hunter explained that ACP's only choice was to file for a variance. Nevertheless, I asked Ms. Hunter for the license application form. Ms. Hunter refused to give one to me. I explained to Ms. Hunter in further detail what I was trying to accomplish, and ACP had the right to apply even if the planning department was to deny ACP's application. Ms. Hunter insisted that the only way to get what ACP was pursuing was through lawful process that, to apply for the
Madam Chair,
variance.
excuse me very much. I'm requesting a 5-minute recess to, from me and
Me?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Due to some of the information that's being presented here, I need to contact county council.
Can you ask county council if I can do that? I'm sure I can. I just want to procedurally follow any rules. I apologize, Mr. Jordan, for this pause. Could you just?
Margaret?
Yes, ma'am. I
can
can patiently
we
wait
stop?
on
And
Ms.
again, I
Rose.
apologize very much.
I know, I just wanted to respond to her, saying I'm patiently waiting on her.
Margaret, can we stop and have a conference with you about our ability to be in this room?
You may, of course, it would be the chair's decision as the presiding over this meeting, but yes, you can.
So are you feeling
We
that?
want to have a conversation first with council, right?
I will say that we are being, Ms. Morris and I are being accused of illegal activity in this presentation.
Right.
And so thus, if we're being accused of illegal activity, I don't see how we have the ability to.
Is 5 minutes adequate time?
5 to 10.
Okay, 10 minutes. We will recess for 10 minutes.
May I ask if that's fine with our council?
Yes, please.
Jacob, is that okay with you?
We will call you in a second, Margaret.
not the full minute recess. I just want to make sure that, and I'm assuming you're back, or right this second, you're going to have something to say. So I want to make sure that your council can hear us and Margaret is back online. Margaret, can you hear us? Mrs. Long?
Yes, I can, thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
I want to make sure his counsel is online. I haven't heard from him yet.
Yeah, I will refer to our counsel, Mr. Frankel.
Can he hear us, though? Is he back? He's back.
His picture is back.
Yes,
What?
Madam Chairman, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. So Supervisor Groves and Supervisor Morris have returned prior to the time allotted, so I just wanted to make sure we were all present. And do you have something you want to say?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I will recuse out of this item. Mr. Jordan, in his presentation, will personally accuse me of unlawful activity, and so therefore, this very well may turn into a legal proceedings later that I cannot sit on at this time.
Okay, so Supervisor Groves is recusing himself. Supervisor Morris.
And I would echo that same sentiment, since I was part of the ad hoc, and would recuse myself as well.
So we have less than a quorum of a board, and I am going to ask our council what we do now.
So the board cannot proceed with lack of a quorum, so the item would fail for lack of quorum.
Madam Chairman, if I could just speak to the record briefly.
Please.
And very simply, I think a fair reading of Mr. Jordan's presentation reflects there are no allegations anywhere in his presentation suggestive of illegality. The terms arbitrary and capricious are constitutional standards, whether it be the California Constitution or the United States Constitution, that attach to due process considerations and decision-making by governmental authorities. So obviously we cannot impact the decision of individual members of the board as to whether to recuse themselves or not to recuse themselves. We do not interject ourselves into that issue. But I would just, to the extent that there is a record and there seems to be a well described as a arbitrary closing of the record on the advice of Ms. Long, that there is no language in Mr. Jordan's presentation which we submit should be at least considered part of the entire record of this proceeding, because it appears as if now, if the board of supervisors is in essence not able to consider this, and that constitutes a de facto rejection of the application, what the board of supervisors basically has done is informed ACP that its only recourse now is to pursue this appeal in a court of law, which, as Mr. Jordan indicated, was not the intent by his comments and was not the objective here. But if that's the determination of the board, certainly we respect that and will proceed accordingly.
As chair, I was hoping to have resolution on this, but I can't force supervisors to sit. And so I'm put in a position where we will not be able to hear. I will request that your full statements be made available for record. And I was really hoping for a solution.
May I ask my counsel a question?
Yes.
Jacob, would it be in the best interest of us for public information?
SJ, I prefer you not ask it on a public record.
Okay.
I prefer that it be in a private conversation. I guess, Madam Chairman, can we maybe have a 5-minute recess so that Mr. Jordan and I can speak briefly?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
5 minutes. remind people that we have 3 closed sessions after this, so I don't want to go too far.
Yeah, we have a few minutes.
Thank you.
We don't move outside from the record. Marcus must call. Well, outside, I got my keys for you back here. Good stuff. Supervisor Chadwick, you have to be happy you weren't reelected.
I will hold my comment. Did you receive the documents that you requested?
Yes, and perfect. And it's exactly, I just wanted, it's perfect.
Thank you.
It really is good. Thank you for doing that. That was great.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I just need to follow along to make sure to do some things. It's exactly what we should be doing. Imagine that.
Well, you know,
I'll wait for everyone else to return.
We don't need
I'm going to text them when he's back in. Whistle.
that. Yeah, you don't want to hear my whistle. Only the dogs can hear it.
Great classes.
That door, is that,
It's a wussy whistle.
that might be locked. I don't know. It's unlocked. It's unlocked. The out.
I got the finger, the index finger.
Oh, at least it was that finger.
I tried for the other one.
Just grab my purse.
We have 3 items in closed session.
Yeah, oh, for sure, I'm not leaving you. I just. Sorry, yeah.
Margaret back?
I think Margaret should.
Margaret, are you back online? You text her and ask if she's going to join us. She's not on the, I don't think she's on.
Oh, there she is. Okay, Margaret looks like she's back online.
Okay, so, Mr. Jordan, our county council is back online, and Richard has, Dr. Coons has joined us, so
Just a suggestion listening to this, I'm sorry, thank you for your time.
We're not hearing.
Let me see if I'm doing it good if I unmute sometimes, we get, okay, we don't get the echo.
Okay, we can hear you now. We can hear you.
Now you got an echo.
well, just give us a minute, and Dan is working on it.
I think it should be good.
Try it now.
Right now, okay. All right.
Can they hear you?
Everybody hear me? Yes, no, maybe? Doesn't sound like anyone can hear me. Yeah, but if I'm over here. You hear me if I'm over here?
Oh, we're getting a yes in the chat.
Okay, I'll just sit right in the middle. I'll get both of them. County has some heartburn over the planning commission and your statements that you don't feel you had a fair hearing at the planning commission. That two commissioners were not able to hear you, some information was not. So if you would like, because we're obviously not going to be able to hear the entire hearing and make a judgment on it, a ruling on it, would you consider taking it back to the planning commission where we could ensure that all the information that you provide is provided to our commission and heard by all 5 of our planning commissioners to rectify at least that portion of the appeal so far? Just a suggestion, or just something that we'd be willing to do if it would make you feel more comfortable being able to make your full presentation. The planning commission could hear it, the public could hear it, and we could take comments from both the public and witnesses and those involved in this. And that way you would have your entire presentation put out there, because with only 2 board members, our hands are kind of tied right now. So just a olive branch to see if that's something that would you'd be willing to entertain.
And does he have to answer now, or can he have 24 hours?
We can. He can go back and talk with his counsel and see if it's something he would like, and I can work with you if need be, and Director Hunter could also.
Madam Chairman?
I just want to make sure
Madam
you're,
Chairman, sorry.
I just want to make sure you're able to hear all of that, Jacob.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Again, that is certainly something that Mr. Jordan and I and the other council representing ACP will discuss. The request that, the reason that Mr. Jordan wanted to speak with me, and I asked that he do so offline, not knowing what he would speak about, is regardless of whether the Board of Supervisors, is or is not at this point able to, adjudicate, render a decision. The fact is, the planning board, Ms. Hunter, has now been able to put into the record before the Board of Supervisors, through the Board of Supervisors, in front of the public, in front of Trinity County, its position. Mr. Jordan's comments include addressing directly why those comments that Ms. Hunter had made today and before the Planning Commission are misguided, incorrect, and based on information that is challenging in its very nature. What we would ask is, even though the Board of Supervisors is not in a position now to rendering final decision, as a matter of due process and fundamental fairness, that Mr. Jordan nevertheless be allowed to complete his remarks, because council will represent to you, Madam Chairman, that despite the perception that the two members of the board may have had, there is nowhere in Mr. Jordan's comments any allegation of illegality by any one person or group of persons. There certainly are challenges to processes that are arbitrary and capricious in nature, which is the basis for a constitutional challenge to any legislative structure and any decision-making process by a governing body, but there are no allegations of illegality. So I can assure that, the chair, that there will not be anything improperly communicated to the public of Trinity County. So we're asking, as a matter of fundamental fairness, to at least allow Mr. Jordan to complete his remarks.
Yes.
Thank you. I would like to ask you at which point I should return. I could start back at the paragraph that I was interrupted on.
Yes, start at the beginning of the paragraph that you were interrupted.
Okay, thank you. I explained to Ms. Hunter the precise nature of ACP's licensing objective. Ms. Hunter told me that the license was not possible because no more Type 3 licenses are available, and for that reason she did not give me a license application. Ms. Hunter then instructed me to fill out the document that is the record of this appeal for a variance to 3 acres worth of cultivation. There was no special privilege request. There was no theoretical variance request. Director Hunter made it unequivocally clear that I could not apply for even one Type 3 license and that none were available. Ms. Hunter explained that ACP's only choice was to file for a variance. Nevertheless, I asked Ms. Hunter for the license application form. Ms. Hunter refused to give one to me. I explained to Ms. Hunter in further detail that what I was trying to accomplish, and ACP had the right to apply, even if the planning department was to deny ACP's application. Ms. Hunter insisted that the only way to get what ACP was pursuing through lawful process was to apply for the variance. Ms. Hunter told me to file the document that is in the staff report. I simply did as Ms. Hunter told me to do, and that was the only way to proceed. 20 days later, on February 27th, 2020, the planning department denied the variance request, and ACP filed appeal PO P2011. On April 23, 2020, after multiple delays by the Planning Commission, which in itself was an interference with ACP's due process and property rights, ACP's appeal was placed on the Planning Commission's agenda as PO 2011. On April 20, 2020, 4 days prior to the appeal being heard, ACP sent an email to Planning Commission Clerk Carol Roberson and to the Planning Department Director Hunter the submission of ACP for advanced delivery to and review by the Commission. As mentioned earlier, that is the 8th document attached to this presentation. An excerpt of that submission to the Planning Commission and why we feel the Planning Department's February 27, 2020 decision was an error is for the following reasons. Application of the 1978 General Plan did not contemplate or address cannabis cultivation, such that the Planning Department's application of the 1978 General Plan exceeded the Planning Department's authority. The 50-acre minimum established by the Ad Hoc Committee is an arbitrary, capricious, and discriminatory standard that is contrary to the state of California Constitution and therefore is inapplicable to the license application. The determination to make available only 15 Type 3 licenses is an arbitrary, capricious, and discriminatory standard that is contrary to the state of California Constitution. The process applied to the filing of the 15 Type 3 license slots was arbitrary, capricious, and discriminatory, and contrary to the state of California Constitution and Trinity County Code. The determination of the 1617 CCL holders, to whom the Ad Hoc Committee arbitrarily, capriciously, and discriminatorily assigned the license slots, was in violation to the state of California Constitution and Trinity County Code. The formation of the Ad Hoc Committee to perform a role and function of a Trinity County Board of Supervisors Standing Committee. The conduct of the business of the ad hoc committee in direct contravention of the state of California's open meeting laws and activities conducted by the ad hoc committee beyond the scope of its mandate individually and collectively was in violation of California state law and the Trinity County Code. Therefore, rendering all pronouncements, recommendations, and actions of the ad hoc committee void ab initio. By the ad hoc committee engaging in the practice of issuing cannabis licenses for Trinity County and giving priority to the licenses that the ad hoc committee issued unlawfully, the ad hoc committee exceeded its limited authority as established by the Board of Supervisors, thereby rendering void and unenforceable the processes established in the licenses issued by the ad hoc committee. As a duly licensed California and licensed Trinity County Cannabis Cultivation Company, ACP is entitled to the grant of its application without limitation. The language of ACP's April 20th, 2020 submission made very clear the expectation that this document be provided to the commissioners in advance of the hearing. Instead, this document was not given to the commissions prior to the meeting, thus denying the commission the ability to consider fully and fairly ACP's submission and appearing to be a subterfuge by the planning department and the commission staff of ACP's appeal. The document only was passed out after I started my public comments and during my public comments, and only after I asked if the commissioners had received the prepared comments. If you were to watch the tape of the hearing, one would think the staff was scrambling to get the document in front of the commissioners, as you would imagine an unmasked healthcare professional in March or April 2020 scrambling to put on a face mask upon learning that a patient presented with COVID-19. In pandemic speak, the Planning Commission proceeding was infected upon entry. Based on the evidence, the Planning Board and the Planning Commission staff deprived ACP of the opportunity for the Commission to see the clear information that on its face provided grounds to grant ACP the requested expanded canopy space. In her opening narrative, at 32 minutes and 35 seconds, into the tape of the Commission hearing, Director Hunter gave never before heard or articulated and unwritten reasons to the Commission for the reasons of the denial. In that moment, Ms. Hunter accused ACP of trying to force special privilege or a theoretical variance, before ACP's submission was even considered. As I said before, I did not have control of the process on February 7th, or try to force a special privilege or a theoretical variance, as Director Hunter so inappropriately mislabeled. By not having made known these reasons in advance, regardless of their artificiality and lack of factual and legal foundation under California law, Ms. Hunter, the Planning Department, and the Planning Commission denied to ACP the opportunity to address the misplaced theories, particularly with the Planning Commission having voted during the same meeting. Ms. Hunter, in her own oral presentation, asserted 4 reasons for her denial of the variance on February 27, 2020. The 4 reasons that she articulated were the 23.86 acre parcel is less than half of the required 50 acre parcel size. ACP does not hold a valid 1617 Trinity County CCL. Only 15 Type 3 licenses are available, with all 15 slots being filled by 1617 CCL holders. No Type 3 licenses are currently available. Should a Type 3 CCL become available, then the zoning code clearly established that priority will be given based on the Trinity County CCL number. And the variance request to allow a 3-acre cultivation site exceeds the cultivation currently permitted on any single parcel. In addition to Ms. Hunter coming up with these never-before stated reasons for denying the application, the hearing before the Commission was flawed for multiple additional reasons. As I previously mentioned, Ms. Hunter and the Clerk of Planning Commission did not provide a copy of ACP's April 20th submission, thereby depriving ACP of full, fair, and thoughtful consideration of the appeal. 2 commissioners, Commissioner Stewart and Commissioner McHugh, participated in the meeting by telephone. At 37 minutes into the meeting, County Counsel Long indicated difficulty hearing, which resulted in a complete disconnect from teleconference and necessitating a break to reconnect the two commissioners. Despite their remote and telephonically challenged connection, these two commissioners nevertheless voted. The two commissioners who participated by telephone supposedly were faxed copies of the submission to coincide with the in-person distribution of this submission to the commissioners who were present. Assuming for the sake of the discussion that they even received the submission, the two commissioners could not possibly have given full and fair consideration to ACP's arguments. The Planning Board, through Ms. Hunter, in claiming that the variance application was a request for a special privilege, which is a precise term that did not and could not apply, and a theoretical variance, which it was not, prejudiced the Commission by her misleading characterizations of the variance application. Although Commissioner Horde did disagree with Ms. Hunter's apparent intentional and misleading mischaracterization of the variance application and considered the path taken by ACP, and I quote, not to be injurious, but a tool the applicant can use to explore the feasibility of the project application. ACP did not have an opportunity to challenge vigorously Ms. Hunter's presentation, having been caught by surprise as to the characterization. That is not due process. Additionally, when the Commission invited public comment at 54 minutes and 35 seconds into the meeting record, one member of the public accused ACP of, and these were his exact words, I quote, "I think what's going on is we are having corporate interests showing up here and that are wanting to change the rules now. And in fact, if I recall correctly, in January, this company gave a presentation to the BOS and where they basically tried to bite off the supervisors to change the rules." Again, this company gave a presentation to the BOS and where they basically tried to bite off the supervisors to change the rules. Not only is there no truth to that statement, this board can rest assured that ACP will be pursuing defamation and other legal claims against this member of the public who made the comment. Please know that it is not a toothless statement. Our legal counsel has spent the past month in fierce litigation with the United States Securities and Exchange Commission and has not yet had the opportunity to prepare and file the lawsuit. This board will read soon enough in the local papers about the significant lawsuit that will be filed against that public member. Also noteworthy is the Commission made no effort to strike from the record the baseless allegation, which could have had some influence on the decision of any one or multiple commissioners' voting decisions. The Commission did not discuss even one of the 8 bases for the appeal. In sum, as a matter of ethics, law, and due process, ACP believes the Planning Commission process was hopelessly flawed, necessitating that the Planning Commission's vote be voided by the Board of Supervisors, overturning the ruling in this appeal. Immediately after the Planning Commission vote, ACP management took steps to and did file this appeal, which now brings us to the merits of each of the issues on the appeal. While we believe that ACP is correct on each of the 8 grounds for its appeal, even the merits of any one ground constitutes a basis for rejecting the Planning Board's decision and the Planning Commission's decision and granting the variance. One stated ground is enough reason for granting the variance, which brings me now to the grounds before you in the appeal. The use of the 1978 General Plan as a basis for the Planning Board's decision is based on an outdated and unpersuasive precedent. The 1978 General Plan is not enforceable regarding cannabis because the 1978 General Plan did not include agricultural ordinances written for commercial cannabis parcels, zoning, or business types. When Trinity County wrote and put in place the 1978 General Plan, cannabis was illegal statewide. Times, demographics, regulations, laws, and social acceptances change yearly. Meanwhile, Trinity County's General Plan did not. The 1978 General Plan, which makes no reference to and takes no consideration of cannabis, is unenforceable as a basis for Ms. Hunter, the Planning Department, the Planning Commission, the Ad Hoc Committee, when it was in existence, and this Board of Supervisors to be the basis for any license or variance decision related to the cannabis project or decision. The decision to not update and address for Trinity County until 2020 a new general plan does not vindicate a voidable decision lacking support in the general plan made against ACP. The arbitrary 50-acre minimum requirement established by the ad hoc committee was not based on any scientific report or environmental impact. It was not regulated or established by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife or based on the California State Code. State law alone empowers the CDFA, the CDFW, and the State Water Board to address excessive concentration of licenses. Trinity County ordinances neither acknowledge or incorporate these state-driven frameworks, and there are no minimum acreage requirements imposed by the state of California for a Type 3 license. The discretion extended to make available only 15 Type 3 licenses is in fact the true definition of special privilege. To allow the planning director the discretion to add another 15 licenses for a total of 30 is not only outside of the director's jurisdiction, but also beyond the county's. California state law allows any individual the opportunity to apply for one Type 3 license. However, the county ordinance states only the first 15 licenses of 2016-2017 with 50 acres minimum qualify. That is a special privilege. That is a deprivation of equal protection and California's constitutional and statutory rights to all, but the favored first 15 licenses. The state of California grants to all cultivators rights to equal opportunity. Our license variance application was executed by Ms. Hunter, as Ms. Hunter directed on February 7th. ACP has diligently followed all laws compliantly without hesitation since receiving our first license from the state in September 2019. Our property is 23.86 acres, deemed acceptable by the BCC, CDFA, CDFW, and CEQA. This county has favored and granted super status rights to those 15 licenses that we as an equal state license holder do not have. Needless to say, such an arbitrary application of discretion creates considerable potential for malfeasance and resulted in a deprivation of ACP's constitutional rights. The process applied to the filing, applied to the filing of the 15 Type 3 license slots was arbitrary and capricious, contrary to the state of California Constitution. This process for license applications was and continues to be flawed. It is remarkable how, after the TAA lawsuit settlement, the grand jury recommended the dissolution of the ad hoc committee as a result of ill performance and recommended the county take a different path. Nevertheless, the ad hoc still continued to operate outside of its jurisdiction before its final dissolution in December 2019. At that point, the planning director was given the power of control and discretion, which has been abused arbitrarily and capriciously, and in a manner that cries out for a formal investigation. There has been clear abandonment of transparency and procedure, thus contaminating the process for filing licenses in Trinity County, and ACP's variance application is a victim of that flawed process. The new EIR deadline, which is still unestablished by this county, but is established by the state for July 1st, 2021, will not be effective after the fact cure. The determination of the 1617 CCO holders to whom the ad hoc committee arbitrarily and discriminatorily awarded and assigned the license slots was in violation of state law. State law grants all legally licensed entities and individuals the ability to apply for one Type 3 license. Trinity County has deprived ACP of that right and is in violation of state law. The formation of the ad hoc committee to perform a role and function of a Trinity Board of Supervisors Standing Committee, the conduct of the business of the ad hoc committee in direct contravention of the state of California's open meeting laws, and activities conducted by the ad hoc committee beyond the scope of its mandate individually and collectively violated California state law and the Trinity County Code, thereby rendering all pronouncements, recommendations, and actions of the ad hoc committee void ab initio. In non-legal speak, every action ever taken by the ad hoc committee should have been void when taken and is subject to being voided by a court of law. In short, Trinity County is a general law county, not a charter county. The difference is that a general law counties are obligated to adhere to state law as to the number and duties of county elected officials. Charter counties, on the other hand, have a limited degree of home rule, or the good old boy, authority that may provide for the election, compensation, terms, removal, and salary of the governing board. For the election or appointment, except the sheriff, district attorney, and assessor who must be elected, compensation, terms, and removal of all county officers, for the powers and duties of all officers, and for the consolidation and segregation of county offices. This county is a general law county, but the function of the ad hoc committee was as if the county is a charter county. By the ad hoc committee engaging in the practice of issuing, and I restate that, by the ad hoc committee engaging in the practice of issuing cannabis licenses for Trinity County and giving priority to the licenses that the ad hoc committee determined to issue entirely at its subjective discretion, the ad hoc committee exceeded its limited authority as established by the Board of Supervisors, thereby rendering void and unenforceable the processes established and licenses issued by the ad hoc committee. The purpose of a properly functioning ad hoc committee is to aid and advise the Board of Supervisors as to designated subjects. The issue for today is not whether there were conflicts of interest in the multiple roles performed by the members of the ad hoc committee. What is noteworthy is a civil grand jury recommended the dissolution of the ad hoc committee for ill performance and other well-known reasons, and ACP should not be victimized by these missteps of the ad hoc committee. As a duly licensed California and licensed Trinity County Cannabis Cultivation Company, ACP is entitled to the grant of applications and licenses by right under California law. Because California state law prevails over general law counties, ACP's entitlement to the license to the variance application derives of right from California state law. Let me shift now from the substantive and legal merits to the policy justifications for granting the variance. When ACP stood before you introducing ourselves in January, we expressed our desire to work cooperatively to open opportunities for all farmers and legally bring them more revenue to Trinity. This variance application is part of that process for all farmers. Next, had the Board of Supervisors or any one member of the Board of Supervisors accepted ACP's invitation to view ACP property and the site of the project, then the Board of Supervisors would have observed the sustainable, environmentally sound, and best practices that ACP has adopted. The reason ACP invited you to view the property is consistent with ACP's core goal to give clarity to the public of our company's movements, something not commonly seen in the cannabis industry and much less in Trinity County. It is sad to say that no member of the board visited and viewed the site. We have extended our hand to the county. It is our hope that you will take our hand, not slap our hand. We seek cooperation with county officials and county administration. We do not seek confrontation. But we neither fear nor shy away from confrontation if that is what is necessary for our investors. ACP continues to grow above and beyond regulatory requirements to lead by example as a transparent legal cannabis cultivation entity. The staff report issued for today's appeal refers to there being no compromise to the variance application. Neither the Planning Board nor the Planning Commission has once inquired as to whether there is a workable compromise. That is a posture of confrontation, and ACP is prepared both today and after today, depending on the outcome, to challenge that posture and firmly. While we are open to consideration of a compromise, we believe that we have a legal right to the granting of the variance without restriction or limitation. Nevertheless, I want to make clear that the issue today is not whether ACP's legal team can make a compelling argument, be persuasive in challenging the entire framework for issuing cannabis licenses in Trinity County as contradictory to California state law. Nor do I intend to further pursue the point of the inherent hypocrisy of 15 licenses for 2016-2017 licenses with 50 acres or more, which itself is a true special privilege. I'm not here today to take up those arguments, nor do I ask our lawyers to do so. today is only about this project, this application, this variance, and ACP hopes that your vote today will favor partnership and growth. Today, we ask the board to vote aye for ACP to be granted one Type 3 license and allow unlimited Type 1 license. I believe that I have set forth with you clarity and precision why the planning board director's decision was improper. By permitting ACP our state-granted right to maximize our canopy space compliant with the state code and proper state setbacks, that also will establish a positive precedent for all farmers and cultivators who adhere to proper legal process and compliance protocols. Thank you.
Mr. Jordan, I have a question for County Council. Since there's going to be no conclusion from the Board of Supervisors.
Madam Chairman, may I be heard briefly?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I would ask that the chair, in your role as the chair, consider the following, because this has afforded council the opportunities to reflect somewhat regarding the issue of the quorum. First of all, I would submit to you, Madam Chairman, that in fact the quorum was present. The quorum was present at the beginning of the meeting, and the fact that 2 members of the board chose to excuse themselves from the meeting should not, in and of itself, deprive the board of the ability to vote. Next, with respect to recusal, I would submit that recusal is appropriate before an item, not during an item. Additionally, the basis for a recusal is typically a financial interest, given that there were no allegations of improper conduct, illegality by any member of the board. So that means that the only inference that the community and this board can draw from the recusal of 2 members of the board is that their recusal is based on a financial interest. And that is something that the chair and the board also should consider. Additionally, I would add that a supervisor who does recuse himself or herself is required to make it clear for the record the reason for the recusal. And I would submit to you that has not occurred. Which then brings us back to one final point, which is that 2 members of the board sought personal legal advice from the county council as to their ability or as to whether they should or should not continue to sit. The clear effect of which, where we did have a proper recusal, timely, in advance of the matter, by a member of the board, as did not occur with the 2 members of the board, who excused themselves, during this discussion. They sought the advice of county council, who in fact gave them personal legal advice. That's the type of advice they should have been seeking from their personal counsel, not from the county council. So I submit, or at least suggest to the board, that rather than the board not concluding this for vote, possibly to defer to the next meeting and consult with a separate council as to whether the recusal process was or was not handled properly. Because at least I would submit to you, Madam Chairman, that the 2 members of the board are in fact able to vote because a quorum was present, a duly constituted quorum was present, and the mere decision of 2 members not to follow the board's own rules that through county council are purporting to govern this process would then enable the chair and the other member of the board to vote.
I could briefly respond to that. I believe there was a number of improper and ill-thought-out accusations that were just made. As county council, I do not give advice on personal recusals to any individual board member. It appears that Mr. Franco believes he was in a meeting that he was not and is free to make false accusations in front of this board. I do not take that lightly, and I believe that would be inappropriate. he also is misusing California law. So if, and I believe you are not a California lawyer, but you can go ahead and provide inaccurate information to the board. There are multiple reasons to recuse oneself, not just under Government Code 1090. There's also the biases and other mechanisms. And it's not our decision to make a determination for the board members where they believe it's possible or not possible to recuse. They're no longer in the boardroom. They're not voting on this matter. Unfortunately, that does mean we do not have a quorum, and Madam Chair can proceed forward understanding that that is required in order to vote on a matter.
Thank you,
I can
Ms.
only add
Long.
briefly, Madam Chair, and that is that, as Ms. Long is well aware, I sought your permission, Madam Chair, to be able to speak before this board, number one. Ms. Long wrote an email back informing me that, that I could do so. That's on point one. Point two is, at no point am I suggesting to you, Madam Chair, or any other person how to interpret California law. Any positions on California law have been advanced in writing by my partner in the firm, my litigation partner in the firm Sunnyvale office, who is a California lawyer and was making representations and offering a structure around California law. All that I was doing was raising some issues for the board's consideration relating to process. And with respect to meetings, the only meetings of which I've been a participant, as I believe should be very clear from the record, are this meeting, my having attended the meeting of the Board of Supervisors, which was the meeting to which Mr. Jordan referred, and I was a video participant and did not speak, as I recall, at the planning, at the appeal before the Planning Commission. So there really are no other meetings to which I am referring. The only meeting in which I'm referring in my current comments are this meeting of the Board of Supervisors, or really this appeal, and that's what I'm asking you, Madam Chairman, to at least reflect more fully as to whether the information that you have received regarding the procedure, in fact, under the circumstances, is correct, and to consider consulting with counsel who has not provided what it certainly appears to be personal legal advice to two members of the Board of Supervisors. Those were the suggestions. There are no representations regarding California law. Those can be made by my partner and other California lawyers. My only request would be is if what I have just put before you, Madam Chair, is in fact correct, that the recusal was proper, number one. I'm sorry, the recusal was improper, number one. And number two, that in fact there is a quorum by which the remaining two members of the board can vote, because of the impropriety in which the recusals took place and the fact that this meeting was convened with a quorum. And in fact, it's well known that where boards do make decisions when members recuse themselves, because that recusal that may not, I'm not suggesting what the decision on California law, may not compromise the existence of the presence of the quorum, that it's possible that this board could still in fact vote. So rather than continue this to some unknown and uncertain date in the future, may I suggest that this be continued or tabled until the next sitting of the Board of Supervisors for continuation.
So, thank you both for your input. I have a question.
Please.
Since there will not be a decision, and we were going to have to, whatever we came up with, direct staff, and it has to be written. My question specifically is, what do we do with public comment now? The whole procedure is not following the guidelines that I outlined when we started. And so where do we sit with public comment? Do we open it to public comment now, or do we not have public comment?
So I can really respond to that. First of all, I do want to say that I did not say that Mr. Frankel couldn't speak. I merely said that what he was saying was incorrect and not consistent with California law. My understanding is that the CAO has made a recommendation or a request that this matter be brought back to planning. If that's direction, we can send it back to planning to hold a full hearing here. From a legal perspective, there's no reason to continue a hearing when the board is not going to ultimately make a decision. No reason to continue public comment at this time, since the board cannot use that information to render a decision. But it's the board's chair how she wants to proceed. But my recommendation would be this, if that's the board's direction, is to give the direction to send it back to the planning commission, and then we can proceed there, making that public comment at that time.
Okay, so no public comment at this moment today. As far as direction given, I would like to allow Mr. Jordan and his legal team time to consider the proposal by Dr. Coons for the Planning Commission. And I would strongly hope to see a resolution on this item. And so I don't feel that two supervisors can come to a conclusion and overturn a unanimous vote by the Planning Commission or uphold it, either direction. I think it undermines the voices that are not here. I understand that Supervisor Brown did it in a timely manner, and I believe that Supervisor Morris and Supervisor Groves had reason to believe, for personal reasons, that they would leave the room. It doesn't matter whether I agree with them or disagree with them, that's a moot point. They're not here, they can't vote. I don't have a quorum the way I see it. So I would instruct Dr. Coons to proceed with communications with Mr. Jordan and to try to work out, and if you choose not to go back to the Planning Commission, we'll have to deal with that at that time. So I don't want to assume anything on your business part or on the county part, but I do not have a full board, I don't have a quorum, and I don't see how we proceed. And there'll be no public.
So Madam Chair, I would request that you send it back, the direction you and the remaining board members send it back to planning. If the entity does not want to proceed in planning, we can deal with it at that time, but we need to make sure we have that direction on the record so that we can proceed forward with a new planning commission hearing.
Madam Chairman, if I could just respond to that, it appears as if, and certainly defer to the discretion of the chair. So by no means am I suggesting otherwise. It appears as if Ms. Long is asking the board to take formal action without a quorum, at the same time arguing that the recusals are proper. So first I want to make very clear for the record that we are objecting to the mid-hearing recusals as being improper. So that should this become a matter that becomes subject to a judicial proceeding, that there's absolutely no question that I have, on behalf of the company, for whomever will be its California counsel handling that proceeding, knows that there was a formal objection made before you, Madam Chairman, on this record to the mid-hearing recusals. I believe Dr. Coons has suggested a discourse between the planning board director and the planning commission to see if there can be a resolution. I understand Ms. Long now wishes to have that formalized. I would just ask, Madam Chair, that you consider the fact that this right now is still a matter that, to use the legal terminology, is within the jurisdiction of the Board of Supervisors for the Board of Supervisors resolution, and in that context, to possibly continue this matter on your docket to the next meeting, such that the interim time can be used for a discussion between, with Dr. Coons hopefully acting to mediate or moderate or arbitrate that process to see if there can in fact be a resolution of this matter. But I would suggest that what we in legal speak would call a remand to the Planning Commission would not be proper because there is no decision, and right now the full jurisdiction is still vested with this Board of Supervisors.
Versus when someone pretends to be a California attorney and they bring forth false accusations about that. I'm not asking for a formal vote. I'm asking for direction, which, as you are aware, under California law, it does not require full quorum. It's just giving direction to staff. So I just appreciate it if you would not misquote me.
If I didn't hear the last part of what you said.
I'm just saying I appreciate if you're not misquoting me. I'm not asking for a formal vote. I'm asking direction to be given to staff, which of course does not require a quorum. But
So what I will do is I will give direction to staff and Dr. Coons to try to work out a solution to go before the Planning Commission. But I also think that at this time, we should also table it to consider, if that doesn't happen, what our options might be. So not knowing the options, and I don't believe now would be a good time to try to develop those ideas. I do think that there's wisdom in tabling it, and so we'll do both. We will table it for further Board of Supervisors. Yes, Mr.
While I appreciate your direction, you have to keep in mind we do not have consensus.
I understand.
I do not agree with you.
Okay. I appreciate you letting me know. Do you want to elaborate on which part?
No.
Okay.
I've
The whole thing.
talked to council and I'm not doing it.
So are you concluded now? Are you completely done?
I am myself. I don't know if our council has any
Okay.
further comments.
Do you have any additional comments before we close this public hearing?
Are you asking that to me, Madam Chairman?
Yes, sir.
No, I think to the extent that, Madam Chairman, you are tabling this matter, and this now will move to a discussion with Dr. Coons, with the Planning Board and the Planning Commission. I think I'm certainly prepared to give some deference to that process, and again, given how it appears certainly as if there are two directions that this may take. One is a resolution that could be forthcoming, if not one that unfortunately, which was not the intent or the stated objective of ACP, to result in there being a judicial proceeding that would enable a full and fair resolution, including of the constitutional issues raised. So that said, I think that is a proceeding and process in which it would be much more accustomed to the type of examination that I was anticipating conducting of the Planning Board Director and other members of the Planning Board staff who, despite the request that they be made available, have not been made available. So I would defer any further comment or statement at this point.
So that concludes our public hearing, and we are not taking public comment at this time. And thank you for putting up with the Zoom and all that, and interruptions, and have a good day.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And I'm going to
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
I'm going to report out on items from the May 19th in a closed session. Darrell, may I?
Wait till you have a quorum.
Okay, to report out on?
Yes,
Okay.
please do.
Yeah, Steve's on it.
They're not leaving.
She's still, we're not leaving yet. She's going to report out on a previous item, but we really shouldn't do that until we have a quorum.
funny.
Now, should I wait?
We're reporting out.
We're going to report out on the May 19th meeting, closed session, item 5.1, Government Code Section 54954.5, parentheses B, conference with real property negotiators, APN 024-500-71, agency negotiator Rick Tippett, negotiating party Tony, under negotiation, price and terms of payments. Direction was given. On item 5.2, Government Code Section 54956.95, it was a liability claim, claimant Judith French, claim number TIBU 600056, agency claim against Trinity County. Direction was given to staff. And today's closed items, 6.1, closed session 54954.5C, existing litigation, Westlands Water District. V5, all persons interested in a matter of contract between United States and the Westlands Water District. Item 6.2, closed section 54954.5, parentheses D, pending litigation, Terry Mines versus Trinity, or County of Trinity Board of Supervisors. 6.3, public employee appointment, Health and Human Services Director Shelley Nelson. And that concludes the...
Madam Chair, I have a question. Are we back in session now?
We're back in session to report out on closed session and what's coming on.
You closed the meeting?
Yes, the public hearing is concluded.
No, you closed it after you had no quorum?
I'm not understanding, could you tell me?
Well, after you lost a quorum, you had, you obviously could not conduct a meeting at that point.
We allowed for the APN to, APC, excuse me, to have his time to say what he wanted to say.
But you say we allowed, but the board was no longer in session and not, there would be no authority to act as a board. So you could have closed the meeting and walked away and say you can talk if you want. But to act as a board, you didn't. I don't see how you have authority to act as a board with only 2 board members.
Okay, well, that's on the record. So now, we're closing everything except for closed session. If it's a closed session item,
Did you want to take public comment on any closed session items?
that's what I was
Okay.
doing right now.
Thank you.
Now a
Yes.
good time to do that?
For closed session items, not on open session items.
Thank you, Madam Chair. John Brower from Junction City. I'd just like to comment that the Trinity County versus Westlands Water District matter, absolutely vital importance to our county, our environment, our fisheries, the well-being of our residents. I strongly encourage you all to strongly stand up on this matter for our interests. Thank you.
Thank you. We're not online, we'll take a 10-minute, just for those that
So
weren't able
we're
to.
moving to closed session now?
We'll go into closed session in 10 minutes.